Yo, what's up? So, you might be wondering, hey, EJ2 Track Rat, why are you wearing two hoodies in your kitchen? Well, it's not because my heat is broken, thanks be to God. But it is because I was going to go in my garage, but my friend Alex, thank you, Alex Herman, turned me on to someone selling a B16 trans for pretty cheap, like $500. It's supposed to be in mint condition, but that's what they always say. So I was gonna go in my garage, but it looks like I might be picking up a transmission, so kind of wanted to bring you guys along for the journey. But in the meantime, while I wait for this guy to pull the transmission from the car, supposedly, I wanted to show you guys some stuff that I got from AEM. So first of all, shout out AEM. Don't mind the dirty dishes. That dishwasher's full. I just finished doing dishes, so I'm not letting them soak. Don't worry. But we got some stuff, man. Cam gears. AEM hooked it up with some cam gears. They sent me some of these bad boys so we can degree the motor, right? Because we're gonna be running a GSR in a class where a GSR isn't super competitive, so we need to get everything we can out of the motor. We got fuel rail. Now, the reason I'm running this AEM fuel rail is because it has provisions built into it for a fuel pressure sensor, which means that I can put a fuel pressure sensor into the fuel rail and run it into the ECU, run it into the data display, and I can log fuel pressure, I can detect failing fuel pumps, bad fuel pressure regulators, give me alarms. Sensors, bunch of sensors. So I'm not even gonna open any of these, but air temperature sensor, oil temperature sensor, or well, water, you could use for water too, and then brake pressure sensors. So gonna have brake bias pressure sensors to do front and rear. And then what that's going to allow me to do is test out a couple different proportioning valve setups on the car. So this here is a non-ABS Integra 4040 proportioning valve. I have always been running the Civic OEM proportioning valve on my car, and I never tried anything else. But I want to try brake bias because I think it could get me some extra advantage. There's my pile of garbage. One of the holy grails of this delivery was an AEM Infinity ECU. So the AEM Infinity ECU is going to allow me to log all of my data super fast. It has knock control. It has individual cylinder knock control. You can tune the ignition timing for each cylinder. You can coil unplug. There's a harness that is built for this ECU for OBD1 Hondas. So really straightforward to install, I think, but it's well, maybe not. Look at all this reading material. It's still supposed to be one of the most advanced ECUs on the market for its price because of its scan rate, high scan rate. Been around for a little bit, so if you've been building cars, you kind of know what it is. They work really well in coil and plug cars. I've been told by a couple people they don't work well in distributor cars. Distributor sensors do not work as well as Hall effect sensors for cam position and crank position. We are not allowed to run a crank trigger or a cam trigger in my class because the rules are dumb, but it's okay. We'll make it work. I have a friend in Honda Challenge, Texas, who is currently running one of these off of a distributor, and he said he has no issues. So that's cigar smoking supplies, and then lastly we have this harness. So this is plug and play OBD1 harness. So literally you just put this in your car. These are your coil plugs over here, down these ones over here. Then you just plug it into the ECU. You're done. There is no splicing. There is no wiring. It's all built for Hondas because Hondas are so popular to modify. So I just wanted to show you guys some of the cool stuff I got. And hopefully this guy gets back to me soon. We can get out there and go get some cool parts for my car. I also forgot to mention that I got these. So these are SuperTech valve springs. These are the lowest resistance SuperTech valve spring you can run. They're dual valve springs. They're not single valve springs. But basically, I did some research, anecdotal evidence, looking at RPM limits, looking at peak power that a GSR would make in H2 trim, talking to some people. Figured having the extra insurance wouldn't be a bad thing, and these aren't too aggressive of a spring rate to rob a ton of power. They do support the max lift that I need. They go a little bit further than that, and they will work with the OEM seats and retainers, I believe, but that could be tested. We're going to try that out soon. I also forgot to mention to you guys that I have a lot of stuff getting Cerakoted, it's called. So one of the guys in JVHC, Dylan Dewson, he stole my name. But other than stealing my name, he actually does Cerakoting. So Cerakoting is a process where you do like a ceramic coat that you lay down as a spray, like a liquid form, and then it levels itself out almost like an epoxy can because it's not truly paint. And what it does is it's really durable, heat resistant, and it's easy to coat, and you just bake it on with an oven. And so he did it. He did it for a bunch of people in Honda Challenge. He did some stuff for me. So he did these knuckles. It does look like some of it got rubbed off when it was bouncing around in the back of my car, but you know, I wanted to have a somewhat durable coating. I guess it's not as durable as I'd think, but that's probably because he couldn't get all of the rust off completely. But black knuckles. And then these are wishbones from an Integra. So I'll be able to run a front sway bar in this car. This car had never had provisions for a front or rear sway bar stock. I had to put the rear bar provisions in, and now I'm considering running a front. Here you go. That is a lower alternator mount. So obviously I'm going to be mounting my alternator there. This is another lower alternator mount. I had him coat a couple of duplicate parts. This here I believe is an upper alternator mount. And this is a motor mount right here. So this is going to go on the motor. And a water neck. So this water neck, I had him coat this as well. You know, just so it would look decent on the motor. And yeah, more wishbones. But this is all going to go on the car. I wanted to do it because I thought it would look cool if it was black, and I didn't want to just paint it because I knew if I hit it with brake clean or acetone, it would just wipe off. So I had him Cerakote it. You know, not perfect, but he doesn't really charge me anything because he's my boy. So I'm still going to pay him, but yeah, not perfect, but thank you, Dylan. This is fucking awesome. Sorry for my language, but yeah, I will be using that. Dylan also, I don't know if you watched my last video, but Dylan hooked me up with this. So this is a U-joint, and this is a U-joint for the steering column to the steering rack. So in my last video, I talked about how this U-joint for the Civic has a small end and a small end. This is for an Integra. It has a small end here and then a large end here. So the sizes are different. And what this is going to allow me to do is run an Integra rack in a Civic. So here's the steering column, I guess. You can see it's the same. But then down here, one is bigger than the other. The one on the left is bigger than the other. This is the Integra one here. It's bigger for a power steering rack. So now I'll be able to run this power steering rack in that Civic. Thank you again, Dylan. He hooked it up. And then more hookups from friends. Nate Bookbinder hooked me up with some studs, head studs. So these are GSR head studs. Thank you, Nate. I have non-VTEC ones, but they will not fit a VTEC block. And then Nate hooked me up with a bunch of OEM seals. So like these are OEM rear main seals and gaskets for the cams and stuff. So yeah, I got my friends really hooked it up. My sponsor hooked it up. And yeah, so we're kind of working with that now. All right. We are lovely streets of Tacony, Northeast Philadelphia. So I'm gonna turn this on while I'm at the light. He wanted 500 for a B16 trans. I ran it through the gears. It felt fine. It's cold. I didn't feel like opening it up. I brought all the stuff that I needed to open up. Dude seemed nice. I said, if I don't open it, would you take 400? And he said, sure. So I just got it for 400. So we'll see. It could be a dud. It could be an LS trans. But with the way that things are selling nowadays, I mean, an LS trans isn't bad to have. That's my broken logic. But also, you know, I'm hoping that it's actually a B16 trans. It could totally... Dude said he was into EFs, so it's very possible that it was just like a B16, you know, SI trans. Totally possible. Did not have an LSD. Don't care. Not running one of those garbage Torsen LSDs. Running a real man's LSD. Toxic masculinity. Ooh! But yeah, boy. We out here in Tacony. Just across the bridge. Got my trans, son. Alright, so we are in the garage. I moved some stuff in here. I got this pile of crap, more piles of crap. But so the transmission is up on this bench, and I am... Yeah, I should probably move that. Okay. That's transmission, and what we started doing over here was we started disassembling the original D series rack, the original one that came with the Civic. Inner tie rods are the same. I mean, I don't know if they're the same, but they thread into the Integra rack fine. These boots, the lengths fit fine, and they fit around the diameter of the Integra rack body, and then the outer tie rods are totally fine. The cool thing about all of them being totally fine is that I crashed the car, and I ran those same tie rod ends, you know, forever. You can see that's the damage from crashing it, and I replaced the door in the fender. That's the fender from crashing it. And yeah, inner tie rod and the outer tie rod on that side are totally fine, which is cool. Means that I guess they get very little wear. But yeah, so we're going to take this shift linkage off and begin cracking this open to see what's up with the trans. Yeah. All right, so we have it open. Looks good. You know, it's got some, definitely got some signs of beating on it, some signs of abuse, but I counted the ring gear. It is 66 teeth, just like a B16 should be. So I'm going to count the rest of these gears that need to be counted to really determine if it has the B16 gear ratios. The reason why I wanted to have a B16 trans is because I want to have, you know, with the GSR motor does not flow up top like a Type R motor does, okay? So in order to make the GSR motor work like I want it to work, I'm going to have to use engine management and data analysis to get the most out of the setup that I can, which is why I partnered with AEM. And then B, I'm going to need to use the proper gearing. So if I have a Type R, which I believe has a different third gear, and maybe a different second and third, I'm not really sure. If I have not a Type R, if I have a B16, I can optimize what gear I want to be in for what track, okay? I already have the OEM GSR, and I have a very short fifth gear, which is a .875, which is a 92 to 93 GSR, and that's going to go in the transmission. But being able to have that B16 trans not only as a backup, but to optimize my gear ratios for different tracks will be handy. So that's why I got this second transmission. It's good to have a backup, A, and B, you know, it's got different gear ratios that would be good for my motor potentially. So we're going to continue counting, and I'll let you guys know. All right, so we counted fifth, we counted fourth. I counted one gear on the countershaft for third. I counted the ring gear. It's looking like it's a like a pre-99 SI, or like a Del Sol VTEC. So it's a B16 trans, which is what I expected after counting the ring gear, but I wanted to make sure. So yeah, man, looks like we got, I mean, it's clean. I mean, I cleaned it up a little bit just to inspect it a little bit. Dogs are a little bit rounded on some of the gears. They're not ideal, but I have run gears. I would say that's a fifth gear. It's not a huge deal. Fourth gear, it's a little rounded off. I have run stuff like this that worked. It wasn't amazing, but I typically don't shift very hard. I'm pretty light on my gearbox. I shift pretty slow on purpose, not because it's fast, but because it doesn't really matter as much in road racing as being reliable and fast in the corners and fast while you're in the gear. So yeah, we have a B16 trans. So thank you, Alex, for hooking me up with this B16 trans deal. Don't know what I'm going to do now. Everything is a mess again. So either stop now and stop the video, or, you know, do a little more work. But I'm pretty happy, $400 for a B16 trans is good nowadays.